In 2019, a man walked into a Philadelphia antique shop with a handful of coins wrapped in newspaper. The dealer glanced at them casually, until one coin caught the light. His hand started shaking. He made a phone call immediately. What he discovered would change everything about how collectors viewed common pocket change. But this isn't just one story. There are two Jefferson nickels hiding in American collections right now that almost nobody knows about. Not because they're impossible to find, but because people have been looking at them their entire lives without realizing what they actually held. One of them might be in your grandfather's nightstand drawer. Another could be in a jar in someone's kitchen. A third might be sitting in a Ziploc bag in an estate sale, marked loose coins, make an offer. The question isn't whether these coins exist. The question is, do you know what you're looking for? And more importantly, if you found one, would you even recognize it? Coin number 1, the 1953 D Jefferson nickel. The 1950s were supposed to be simple times. Post-war America, booming economy, Eisenhower in the White House, regular coins flowing through regular pockets, nickels meaning something, 5 cents actually buying something. But in 1953, something happened at the Denver Mint that would create one of the most discussed varieties among serious collectors decades later. Not a dramatic error, not a catastrophic malfunction. Something so subtle that 99 out of 100 people would never see it. The mint workers in Denver were striking nickels with specific dies. Quality control existed, sure, but dies wear down, deteriorate, and sometimes, before they're pulled from service, they create variations that specialists spend years trying to identify. Think about what a die actually is. It's a piece of hardened steel, engraved with the mirror image of what you want to stamp onto metal. When you strike a coin, you're literally using extreme pressure to squeeze a design into a blank metal disc. Over thousands of strikes, those dies get fatigued. They crack, they break, they show their age in specific, documented, photographable ways. The 1953 D nickels coming out of Denver in specific months of that year show characteristics that prove something about the equipment, the workload, and the decisions made in that facility during a very narrow window of time. Here's what separates the 1953 D that sits in a bowl, somewhere from a 1953 D that makes collectors lean forward at auctions, their hearts actually racing. Most 1953 D nickels show standard die characteristics. Normal, we're on the obverse. Standard reverse design. They're fine. They're worth face value to maybe $1 or $2 in circulated condition. Nothing remarkable. But a variety that matters, the one that changed things, features distinct die cracks, specific doubling patterns on certain letters, and a particular strike characteristic on Jefferson's portrait that only existed during a narrow production window. The cracks start small, almost invisible to untrained eyes. But they're there. The D mint mark itself is crisp and bold, not worn, not weakly struck. This tells you it came from dies relatively early in that production run. Fresh dies, just installed, ready for hours of work. Here's the detail that makes collectors obsess. The obverse die used for these specific 1953 D coins shows progression. The longer the die was used, the more pronounced the crack became. So if you're holding a 1953 D with a moderately developed die crack, you're literally holding proof that this die was used for thousands of strikes before finally being retired. The reverse side stays relatively consistent, but the obverse? That's where the story lives. And serious collectors? They've documented which progression stage means what. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3. By Stage 5, the die was pulled from service. You can hold a 1953 D in your hand and know exactly where in the production timeline it was struck. Collectors pursue 1953 D varieties because they're pursuing the story of a mint itself. Every variation tells you something about the machines, the pressure, the timing, the hands that fed those dies. Serious numismatists don't just collect coins. They collect the mechanical history of America's coinage system. They're studying industrial processes that happened 70 years ago. They're solving puzzles that the mint workers themselves probably didn't even realize they were creating. The 1953 D with the right characteristics becomes a documented example of how dies deteriorated, how long they remained in service, And when they finally broke down, it's archaeology. It's detective work. It's absolutely addictive once you understand what you're looking at. A collector could spend an entire Saturday just comparing photographs of 1953D nickels, tracking die cracks, building a spreadsheet of which production sequence produced which variant. And that collector wouldn't feel like they wasted a single second. For decades, 1953D nickels circulated as worthless pocket change. A nickel was a nickel. You used it to buy candy. You spent it. You never thought about it again. Then, in the 1980s, something shifted. Collectors got serious about Jefferson nickel varieties. Not just dates and mint marks. Every serious collector knew those. Not just high grades. Varieties. The specific, documented, traceable variations that prove mechanical history. A 1953D in VG8 condition. That's very good. Showing clear where from a decade or more in circulation might fetch 50 cents to $1 at coin shops. Jump to fine condition, where the design is still legible but heavily worn. You're looking at $2 to $5 by the early 2000s. Very fine, where details remain sharp but where it's obvious across the high points. That crept toward $10 to $15. People started paying actual money for these things. Extremely fine examples, where only the highest points show light, where you can see Jefferson's hair detail, where the leaves on the reverse are crisp, began selling for $30 to $50 in the 2010s. Then something shifted. Online databases, better photography, collectors sharing magnified images. The 1953D variety started getting cataloged, studied, debated in forums. Reference books were published. Auction houses began separating these from generic 1953D coins. The demand wasn't explosive, but it was consistent, and it was growing. Collectors were willing to pay more and more. But the unbelievable part comes next. When a 1953D Jefferson nickel grades AU50, that's about uncirculated, meaning barely touched by circulation, showing only the lightest trace of wear on the highest points, with the correct die characteristics, with properly documented provenance, with photographs proving the progression stage. That coin doesn't sell for tens of dollars anymore. Auction houses have documented sales at $150 to $400 for premium examples in recent years. And the reason collectors will pay that much for what most people consider pocket change is simple. These aren't just rare nickels. They're documented evidence of a specific moment in American minting history that lasted only a few months. Think about what you're actually paying for. You're paying for certainty, for proof, for something you can hold and know. Absolutely know. You're holding a piece of documented history. No guessing. No wondering. This specific die was used on this specific date range. This specific crack pattern proves it. One well-known example. Crossing the block at heritage auctions with exceptional eye appeal and strong die characteristics clearly visible, realized $385 in 2021. The lot description took up half a page. Photographs showed magnified details. The provenance was impeccable. But here's where it gets really interesting. The jump from circulated to gem quality is even more dramatic. An MS 65 1953D with a variety. That's a coin that was never circulated, still showing original mint luster, graded by PCGS or NGC professionals. Auction records show these commanding $600 to $850. Anums, iruroetase. You're approaching $1,200 to $1,500. And an MS 67, perfect or near perfect uncirculated example with a documented die characteristics. That's $2,000 territory. Maybe more, because by that point, you're holding one of maybe a dozen known coins at that grade level with that specific provenance. Collectors aren't paying for a nickel anymore. They're paying for rarity, for scarcity, for something that fewer than 50 people in the entire country might own. Here's the part that should make you check your change jars tonight. 1953D Jefferson nickels are still circulating, not in huge quantities, but they're out there. Roll searches at banks, though banks rarely have rolls that old anymore. Coin dealer grab bags. Flea market bins marked 10 cents each by the lot. Old collections stored in attics for 70 years. Estate sales where the executor doesn't know numismatics and just wants to liquidate everything. The 1953 D with the right variety characteristics is low mintage relative to total production. The Denver Mint struck millions of nickels that year, but the specific window where these varieties existed, that was weeks or months, maybe 3 months at the outside. And here's the really interesting part. People who rolled these coins in 1953 or 1954 might have put them away for safekeeping, stored them in a drawer, forgot about them completely. Those rolls might still exist unopened, wrapped in paper marked Denver Nickels, 1953. Someone will eventually find that roll, or a collector will stumble across one in a dealer's junk bin, priced at 5 cents because nobody bothered to look carefully. Coin number 2, the 1984 D. Jefferson nickel. Now we jump forward to 1984. Ronald Reagan's re-election campaign. Personal computers in homes. Video stores on every corner. The world had changed completely. But the Jefferson nickel was still being struck the same way it had been for decades. Same basic design. Same facility equipment. Same production standards. And then, at the Denver Mint in 1984, something changed. The coins looked different. Not damaged. Not exactly wrong. Just different. This is where the detective work really begins. Collectors started comparing 1984 D nickels to 1984 Philadelphia cents, to coins from 1983, to coins from 1985, studying them under lights, magnifying every detail. They were looking for the moment when something changed. What they found was a specific die state affecting the obverse. Jefferson's profile showed a particular characteristic. Heavier striking pressure combined with a die break that started small but grew progressively worse throughout the production run. Not every 1984 D nickel shows this. That's what makes it a variety, not a standard error. This is selective. This is rare. This is documented. The coins that carry the specific die break are the ones that matter. And once collectors identified them, they realized something profound. Hardly anyone had documented this variation before. It had been sitting there for decades, completely overlooked. The 1984 D variety represents what happens when a die is pushed beyond its intended lifespan. The mint uses dies until they break, but they try to pull them before they deteriorate too badly. Cost-benefit analysis. A new die costs money. Pulling a die early means replacement costs. Pulling a die late means errors and potential problems. Sometimes they wait too long. And when they do, you get these magnificent examples of mechanical failure. These unintended variations that tell stories about production schedules and cost-cutting and the basic physics of metal stamping. Collectors obsess over these because they obsess over truth. You can't fake a die break. You can't misinterpret it. Either it's there, struck into the metal itself, or it isn't. It's physical evidence. It's proof. It's real. For years, 1984 D nickels were exactly what they seemed. Recent coins of no particular interest. Worth 5 cents if you needed it. A dime if a dealer was feeling generous. Nothing special. Then, as modern reference materials improved and collectors became more sophisticated, the 1984 D varieties started getting serious attention. Reference books were updated. Auction catalogs started listing these separately. Online communities formed to discuss and document examples. A circulated example with clear die characteristics might sell for $1 to $3. Very fine condition, $5 to $12. Extremely fine, whereas minimal and luster is strong, $15 to $25. But here's where it gets interesting. A gem example, MS65 or better, with a documented die variety, starts hitting completely different price territory. An MS65 1984D with strong die characteristics documented by the PCS or in GC grading services. Auction records show these realizing $95 to $250 depending on eye appeal and strike quality. Annus, iruro you're looking at $250 to $400. The record sale, as documented by recent Heritage Auctions results, reached $287 for an exceptionally struck MS-66 example with outstanding luster and perfect die characteristics. The bidding was competitive. Multiple collectors wanted the specific coin. That means a nickel from your pocket. A coin you could have found in change today. A coin people thought was worth nothing. Sold for nearly $300. Because someone did the work. Someone learned the characteristics. Someone refused to believe that modern coins couldn't be interesting. The 1984 D is recent enough that uncirculated rolls might still exist in old collections. Bank finds, estate sales, forgotten jars in someone's garage. That one collection a parent stored away and never opened. A safe deposit box being cleaned out. An MS-63 or MS-64 example could still be found. And if you find it, if you check it against the documented die characteristics and it matches, you're looking at a $50 to $100 coin minimum. Maybe more if the strike is particularly strong. Maybe significantly more if the luster is exceptional. This is the moment where you decide what happens next. You can walk past nickel collections forever. Ignore them. Assume they're worth nothing. Accept that modern coins are boring. Accept that only ancient rare coins matter. Or you can become the person who actually looks. The person who knows that 1953 D Jefferson nickels with the right die characteristics command hundreds of dollars. That 1984 D varieties sit in collections waiting to be recognized. That somewhere in America, right now, someone is about to discover a coin worth hundreds of dollars in their grandfather's desk drawer. Check your change jar tonight. Look at the mint marks. Study the details with fresh eyes. Use a magnifying glass if you need to. Photograph the obverse and compare it to reference images online. The 1953 D and 1984 D nickels aren't impossible to find. They're not hidden in vaults or locked in museums. They're waiting for someone who actually knows what they're looking at. That person could be you. And when you find one, when you hold up to the light and see that die crack, that progression mark, that proof of 70 years of history, you'll understand why collectors spend their lives on this. You'll be holding money, real money, hundreds of dollars, all because you decided to actually look.